Good morning, this is George Lees, just going to do a little 5 to 10 minute video on a summary of all of the crimes that I've disclosed in recent days about European finance and fraud, about fisheries all across Europe and all across the world being corrupted by people like him, the sad bastard that is Lord Sanderson of Bowden. Yeah, he's in charge of negotiating Mrs Thatcher's fish quotas for all of his days in the House of Lords and in the Conservative Party. Lord Sanderson of Bowden, member of the River Tweed Foundation, the Tweed Commissioners, which in recent weeks have downgraded their activities from the ownership of the whole of the Scottish River to water quality issues for reputational reasons, and suddenly their CEO, like Miss Tom the solicitor, who used to be the solicitor and the lawyer for the Scottish Borders Council, their CEO is now John Smith for anonymity reasons. Okay, Born Leisure is still owned by my old boss Peter Harris, who used to pay me in an envelope for my Christmas bonus, even although he understands the whole of the Christmas religion is a fraud, and it has been a fraud for 2,000 years. That's because he works for this lot, the House of Rothschilds, his neighbours in Hertfordshire. They own entirely the whole world now, and they make sad jokes about Jesus being the donkey in the religious story. That's the Palm Sunday day. The Ave Maria joke is that the streets of Paris, where a lot of their frauds are registered on behalf of the Rothschilds, they come into the story later on with pictures. Yeah, so Ave Maria is a joke about the avenue being lined by trees. That's the shrubbery joke that the Rothschilds share with the world and the Monty Python's team, because the Christian cross is a joke. It's made of wood, and the wood that is the human erection is the joke about the crucifix. And Ave Maria ties you nicely into the hymn. Yeah, it's about the avenue, the tree-lined avenue is the Christian cross, and the T-Mobile joke is the same joke. Okay, what we've got is a set of interlocking criminals that, through the jokes that they present in the religion, totally cover up the world's news. That's the Pathy News and the cock crowing 3 times when St. Peter, the fictitious character that is the name behind St. Peter's Port on Guernsey. This is the registration for Trevor John, the member of Born Leisure, who owned the racehorse that died this week, which is a joke about Tiny Tim and treading carefully on the tulips. Yeah, that's also a joke about the resurrection of Jesus. See Tiny Tim coming out of the grave in the graveyard. Tiny Tim, that was the song, Tiptoe Through the Tulips. Tiny Tim is in the Christmas Carol joke written by Dickens, and all of the elite authors are a cover for the war crimes of the world owners and its money lenders that the fictitious Jesus warned us about. So Trevor's registration with Born Leisure, which begins with the letters JE, and I thought it would be associated with the Jedburgh justice system, which is entirely a fraud, entirely a treason. And you've got linkages to the Butlins at Donkeys, at the Butlins Donkeys, and the EO joke, and all of the donkeys neighing joke that takes you into the David Copperfield story. Yeah, it is all a massive laugh for them, despite the fact that they kill millions of people in every engineered conflict. And here is where Trevor, I should get his name correct, Trevor is an actor name in Hollywood. He owned Tiptoe Away that died on the weekend. The colours on the jockey's back were green and yellow. Okay, that's the Axis powers in World War II, and Rothschild wrote yellow for cowardice. His registration is actually in the island of Jersey, and all of the place names on Jersey are part of the religious joke. St Mary's Village, St John's Village, Trinity, St Martin, St Saviour, St Clement's, St Aubin, St Brelade, St Owen's Village. Isn't that funny? The donkey is Jesus. And what I've got here is the revelation that Mr Bean was the war crimes joke. Mr Bean is the war correspondent for Gallipoli, where Winston Churchill culled 150,000 Anzacs in a fortnight so that the Rothschilds could take over the oil wealth on the Russian steppes and commit the genocide in Armenia. This is Born Leisure, where Trevor works for. That's the Trevor that is registered in Jersey as part of the Butlins Empire, led by Mr Harris, who is the cover for the Rolf Harris jokes and the sideshows about the funding of the Lib Dems, with the ship coming out of their building that was led by the Huggins Haigs, that is the link to Butcher Haig and all of their fascist jokes. Yeah, and the Huggins Haigs get horrible cancers, like the vicars in the Church of Scotland. We're on to the 6th or 7th vicar of the Church of Scotland as their vaudeville acts consumes the souls of GPs in our region from sectarian Ireland, where these scams have kept it brutalised for decades. Okay, so enough on Trevor. Hemmings is his name. Trevor John, like St John in the Bible. All of it is vicious. Let's shuttle through the series of images. That is Lord Sanderson of Bowden, the deviant that owns the River Tweed in the Melrose Freemasons area. He's actually part of the Abbotsford Trust and a leader of it for a time, like Alice Dare Hutton, the leader of the Church of Scotland, the leader of the British Legion, the profiteer in the Las Vegas military tattoo, the former head of the Borders Council, who Mrs Tom works for, and he lives right up beside the policeman that tried to get me sectioned. Yeah, that is the policeman who then trained as a doctor, who is Dr. Fingland, and he's really sick, because what he's doing is stealing from the world's children, profiteering in the NHS, and getting 40% of his salary to persecute innocent people like Lord Sanderson of Bowden, who is a Tweed commissioner but gave me the sack for refusing to kill fish in the embargo on killing fish. And at lunchtime he was full of the crimes of the Spanish people. Yeah, and full of the crimes the local ghillie, when I talked about the killing of the black men in the negotiations for their pay round at Lonmin, which was owned by the now disappeared Lord Patten and the cabal of Conservatives that now include Tom Weatherston, our local representative for Kelso, that comes into the story later on. Yeah, all of it is a massive scandal and a series of international crimes against the people. All of them are massive profiteers at the citizens' expense, which is why I have portrayed the Rothschilds' headquarters in Frankfurt, where there used to be poor people in the ghettos, and the Warner links to Butlins and the tax havens are unmissable when you understand the simplicity of their crimes and their genocides. Born Leisure are relatively innocent compared to all of the rest of the culprits. There we go. Here we've now got the Easter Bunny joke. There's Harvey, the film featuring James Stewart, who's a little bit buffoonish late in life. Yeah, he's the hero that used to work for little companies that tried to build affordable houses. Yeah, there's the fascist black horse with the amber eyes. That's the Kristallnacht cull joke. The Amber Eyes is a book about the killing of the Jews in fascist Germany. There is fascist Nathaniel Philip Victor James Rothschild, registered address House Shepa, Redwig, Klosters, Switzerland, and there is the fucking Easter bunny that they laugh at in the Harvey film. That is a Pukka, the Pukka pies joke that my mum and dad laughed at, although they did not understand that it was associated with the killing of the ordinary working man in World War II, World War I, and every conflict that the Rothschilds engineer through world history. There's the Lloyds Banking Group, the black fascist horse that is prancing near Brie in the Maginot Line. It's also in Brie in the film about the Lord of the Rings, with all of the Quisling heroes being deviant world leaders that I can explain entirely in every video I make. There is the Rolling Stone Easter joke. There's the Easter egg in the hands of the fascist bunny that is the Pukka, and is the bunny that is Hitler's friends in that little picture. It's now ever so difficult to find since I discovered it last night and used it in the cover for the video that I made on the massive crimes of Hitler, Eva Braun, who were trained by the Brits in Tavistock and then in Liverpool. Yeah, it's a scandal, and that is Winnie the Pooh with the honey trap, and I've made a video this morning that explains that much more articulately, but without the pictures. There is the vicious religious joke that Jesus Christ never existed. Yeah, that's why they have so many religious names in the tax havens all across the world, and in Delaware, where this guy is also registered as a director in the Rothschild's frauds. Sorry, that is Harvey Rothschild. Yeah, the links to Delaware do not involve real humans with real birth dates. They've only got a Rothschild's institution in Delaware, but it's registered as a director for fraud reasons and to cover up the killing of all of the innocents in all of the wars that they engineered. Even their martyr is a fake. That is the Christian tomb. Yeah, and it's related to the American cavalry joke, because Jesus died on Calvary Hill, and everything that they do is a belly laugh at world history, which could be taken to decency really quickly had they the courage to ring me before they become villainous people in the annals of history, which is what they deserve to be. Here is the brutalization of Vietnam. There's the Rolling Stones that put it on their album cover, and there is the Rolling Stone that they think is really funny, because Jesus never came out of that dark place. Yeah, and everything that they do is a merchandising triumph for the ordinary bimbos that watch the rugby and win the wooden spoon every year. I can only find one religious cleric who thinks deeply about the role in life and is a little bit nervous now, blessedly, about meeting their maker. I make sure that I obey the laws from the gods, and I get all of my clues from them. Yeah, and it is absolutely vicious how leaders of ours. There is the brutalization of Vietnam in the Rolling Stones joke about the Easter egg. Do you see the naked girl, all of the people in the defoliation program, with the massive cloud of toxic issues that were raised in Hertfordshire in the war crimes depots that I used to work in? That is at Rothamsted, where they worked on the nerve gases that were used in the trenches and are now covered up by the green scandal that is the El Nino thing. All of the Rothamsted funding has disappeared, because now all of that funding is going into the false news that El Nino is about the weather patterns. The gods create the weather patterns, and El Nino is a little icon of the baby fucking Jesus that was traded by Magellan's 3 ships that go sailing by on Christmas Day in the morning, as the Camilla joke and Magellan's fleet. Yeah, and everything that they do is related to the cover-ups in the media that says that John Cleese is a joke about Basel, the central bank, being faulty, but they're allowed to live in the tax havens like Delaware, and everybody has a laugh at the war dead and the people that are brutalised in their own continents by these greedy bastards. And the Pukka is the Winnie the Pooh joke. There you see the bear, the bunny, or the black horse. It's kinda Irish humour, and it's kinda deviant, because Ireland has been brutalised by these posh people forever. That's right into Michael Moore's generation, who has confessed on screen that he is Irish, and that he also would not condone ever charging British students to go to university. He's online doing that. The biggest sin any politician commits, which is why he had to resign. None of the story about his P&O shipping empire and the links to the KKK with the name of the Costia Concordia ship have been revealed other than by me. There's Trevor Hemmings, who's registered at JE3 8BA. I thought it was Jedburgh Sheriff Court, because they are criminal and complicit in all of the crimes of Malcolm Rifkind, Sir John Anthony Chilcot, and everything that is on my website, including the ownership of the central bank in London, which is now got on its directors Dave Prentice, the head of the biggest public sector union, who will not give his members a pay rise for 7 years back to back. Yeah, and the Rothschilds on this slide are registered at Klosters, Switzerland, where they made the diamond stealing and the gem stealing movies that were the Pink Panther movies, featuring the bastard child of Lord Mountbatten, who was Peter Sellers. And Mountbatten was killed by Prince Philip because he tried to take over the narcotics laundering out of the sleaze dens that were dismembered by HIV, which is my brother-in-law's boyfriend's charity. I no longer have access to my own children. They are scamsters that they now are living with, yeah, and they run charities to profit from the HIV scandal in London. Yeah, the narcotics trading is an absolute scandal, and I've explained to you in multiple videos how it's just part of this big joke about world ownership and the role of the Rothschilds, who fund the assassination bureaus and the quislings that tell the stories. My mate Greg Hallett has either defected to the quisling role, or he has opted to neglect the reporting of the world history of the genocides in Gallipoli that was committed by Mr. Bean. None of the investigative journalists, including Jim Fetzer, who is now making videos on there being a second Jesus. They give no facts. They do not talk about the Garden of Eden for reputational reasons, because that is the Yemen and it is the place where the BP plant is. That's Greg Hallett, the Kiwi, that will not confront the joke about killing the Anzac war dead. The Mr. Bean joke shared with the monarchy at the London Olympics. They're tightly zipped on all of those massive religious frauds as they continue to have little laughs about Bing Crosby's war bonds and all of the things that they entirely understand about the engineered conflicts and their loyalty to the world owners. That's you, Greg Hallett. Apparently you have called me a shill. You proclaim that you are an Anzac and that you're proud of your insight into history. Explain to the world the Mr. Bean joke and why you and Jim Fetzer are reluctant to talk about it and any of the Pizzo jokes and the pie jokes and the Hollywood jokes about the pies and everything that wins an Oscar being a war crime and a triumph for the deceitful bastards that work in the backroom for these world owners. Right then, this is more localised, but I want to explain it to you. That's Kelso Square, where a Blair resides, but that Blair is relatively innocent. Part of the Borders Mafias, part of the ownership team that have got the Borders all locked up, and part of the empire that profits from things in Scottish sport. I'm bound to secrecy on that one. Yeah, he's a shareholder in some of the Scottish sporting frauds. Okay, there is my call to the Justice Secretary Michael Matheson on the Trident scandal that could have made Scotland free had any of the SNP activists been prepared to reveal it. All of them opted for resignation in their financial shame. That's a reference to the Home Office and border control issues. That's Theresa May that launched the career of the New England rugby winger called May within weeks of me denouncing her border control issues. And I've just made this image so I can put it on the cover to describe what I saw in Kelso Square. Yeah, they are quislings. The mayor in Kelso is a Yorkshire Freemason. He's limping really badly. The man that is the care home director that retired from the NHS in his 40s made the speech at the opening of the Kelso Civic Week last year. That's the care home that is run by the Toms, and all of it is into the Darnick and the Melrose criminal networks. And there is the Selkirk criminal network that is closing down every one of the law courts that it happens to work in for profit on behalf of the Law Society of Scotland that launders all of Scotland's democratic fundings into the havens like Delaware that we referred to earlier. That is Sheriff Kev Drummond. That is Donald Trump, who's interlocked on the wind power companies with massive Ponzi shelves, run out of the west coast of Scotland. And there we have the Law Society logo. There you have Sir Davy Steele and the 5 Arrows triumph that they laugh about. That's the David Steele that owns a huge chunk of the directorates that determine the future of Syria's funding, and that is the Kev Drummond that condones the killing of the returning troops. That is the anti-communist movement that all of them, including Tom Weatherston, the Labour man turned Tory, because the beer is cheaper at the corrupted Jedburgh pubs, or the corrupted Conservative Club UK, led by Michael Ancram, the criminal, and the cover as the Marquis of Lothian for the Rothschild's crimes in Lothian Road. That's the Jedburgh Sheriff Court criminals that I'm referring to you every day, because everything that they do in their lives is a cover-up for the news that Scotland could be free and the whole world could be prosperous and peaceful, but for their dirty tricks that are led by the corrupted politicians, and they are led by the corrupted media. And that's Miliband saying that he's going to stop the border treason on the bloody border, where they don't understand flooding 500 years after they culled the poor people there, and only 2 of them returned to be a communist threat as working men in Selkirk, where Davy Steele is the boss for generations before he scams the devolved government out of the building that is now their headquarters, but is still a subsidiary of the Crown Office, which is the same as the law courts in Scotland. 2 of the 4 have closed. Up here you have Stormouth Darlin. It has also closed because the notary who works there is no longer able to siphon off people's pensions and their legacy to their relatives and to charge a massive fee for it, because he died like a lot of the other people have done, or have developed the horrible limp like the Pope in Rome, who used to be a genocidal figurehead in Latin America before he was elected for his sins. That is Stephen House, the man behind most of the frauds in Scotland, who wants to be heavily armed so he can defend himself against the innocents who get persecuted in the Jedburgh Sheriff Court, and the Law Society has slush funds to reveal the crimes of the rapists in the sheriffdom. That is the Andrew Lothian gangbang rape case. I think I've told you enough. So the bears are part of the Pukka joke, that is the Winnie the Pooh joke, that is also the joke about the icons on the church roof. That's the Pukka is the Easter rabbit, and no theologian in our country will be able to explain to you why the bunnies and the bunny girls are such an intimate part of the Christianity celebration of the festival we are just about to enter into. I can explain every one of those crimes, like the selling of Scotland's freedom by Arnot-Manderson, which is the focus in this image. There is Scotland's Jewish icon for freedom that died after he lost the battle at the Torah. That's the Jewish text and the Jewish Bible at the Torah fucking wood. That is the man who I have a gagging order placed on me by little Sheriff Drummond, the anti-communist man, yeah, who's been disappeared from the Jedburgh Sheriff Court, and every time they change the sheriff, it's a cover for their massive crimes. It was at one point a Harley, who's a cover for Harlot, who covered up, who exposed the cover-up of the illegitimacy of the British monarchy for 160 years. It's a cover-up for the University of Edinburgh, the Speculative Society in Edinburgh, and all of the links to the Camerons, Hitler's bank, the Dresdner bank, the BNP Paribas bank in France that Miss Lagarde used to work for before she moved upstairs into the global network that is the Rothschild owned institutions in Washington, all of which I have visited. It is a massive series of frauds, and I've been told when I reported the Trident scandal to Justice Secretary Matheson from Falkirk, where all of their other cover-ups come on the Falkirk MP, who's a cover for Lord Haw-Haw in World War II, part of the Rothschilds' massive sins against the world's people and part of the genocide joke. Yeah, so I made this image because there was a van proclaiming that it was about border control issues, and it was parked right in front of that building in Kelso Square. Yeah, and the Kelso Square is cobbled, and the masons have been building it and rebuilding it because they're in a tiz about the revelation of how they work in the lodge and how it costs them £250 a year to put their own children in the war memorial. And that takes in the brownies, the Girl Guides, and all of the jokes about the brownies being the goblins and the characters on the church roofs. And if you're an American and you make the movie in Hollywood about Harvey the bunny, they take the form of a bunny then. Isn't that funny? And the bunnies in Hitler's era were Hitler's friends. That's this joke. That's Eva and Hitler, and a dim image of Winnie the Pooh at the honey pot that was World War II for all of these deviant bastards. And Prince Charles has got big ears and gets massive pay rises because he's just a front man for this, like Ali G and the Marx Brothers used to be. See no evil, speak no evil. Now the equivalent of the Marx Brothers are the comedians in the Red Nose Day sector that we've just been parasitised by for the whole of last week, and loads of them, like J.K. Rowling, get MS, and they have to raise charitable funds for that scam now too. Yeah, and the Biafran thing was just vicious, because they're sharing, they know it's Christmas, and do they know the fucking Easter egg is an icon for the fake up that was Jesus Christ, and Greg Hallett is a deserter to everything that the working man and the free journalist could have, unless he's been taken out and replaced by a body double. If he has been, it's very efficient. Yeah, I'm going to stop there now. The vicious jokes about Vietnam and about Korea, where my dad fought as an ordinary working man against ordinary working men in the jungle that were really poor when they went there, but when they left they were dead. That's the Hmong joke, the Home Alone joke about Vietnam and turning people into traitors inside their country. Scotland is fucking riddled with them, and most of them are in the Parliament buildings, the local councils, and the other ones that run the Kelso Square frauds are from the Yorkshire Freemasons. He's a deviant. I don't know whether he's still alive. He lives right underneath the Eildon Hills, and he's a lord, and he works for Mrs. Thatcher. And he understands entirely the Rothschild joke. When they take over the Waterloo Central Bank, the Rothschild man goes down on his left knee as he begins to take ownership of the issuance of money all over our globe. I'm going to stop there now and make the video, and then I'll take a walk with those revelations coming out really soon. I feel a lot safer. That's the Lothian and Borders Police, who are losing all of their jobs to G4S, which is in a massive toxic debt pool like the fucking Lloyds Banking Group. Yeah, that's that image. The Lloyds Banking Group is the black horse in New Zealand on its bank's walls, and it's the black horse all across the world. And it's the black horse in the Bible, and it's the black horse in the Lloyds Banking Group toxic debt fraud that is trillions of pounds in debt, and every one of the decent banks, including the Co-op Bank, where I can still remember my mum's innocent little savings number, they've been asset stripped. And Lord Sanderson of Bowden was part of the Lidl's or the supermarket fraud chain as well, also a director on one of the previous Ponzi shelves that have been crashed entirely for profit. Yeah, so there's the story about the Borders Freemasons, the links to World War II, and the Pukka pies joke that my mum and dad do not understand, but all of the jokes about the pies and the pizzos are genocidal and lead to massive religious martyrdom on every conflict from Ireland to the Jewish Revolution. Killed 8 million Jews in the name of Christianity. Many of them were crucified, and we did not have then Easter eggs. Yeah, but the people that were in the dynasty that was Herod's dynasty had already moved to Rome and were in the Mithraeum, like Greg Hallett might be. He has no conscience. He's an Anzac, and millions of Anzacs died in the battle for the Crown Templar. He understands that wicked history, and either his body double is a cheat and is registered in Zahawi's constituency as Stratford-on-Avon, where the Pukka is actually Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Isn't that funny? Cloven hoofs like the devil, and the devil was fictitiously written about by the Piso family, who invented Christianity and then invented the Islamic terror threat with a lot of support from George Bush and Tony Blair, the socialist and the war criminal, who's now capable of earning £10,000 per lecture hour as the envoy to the Middle East and the owners of massive oil interests in Kazakhstan and in what used to be Iraq, where they have a deep interest in the natural history of the otter at the estuary of the river. That is the joke about Gavin Maxwell and the otter that got hit on the head with a spade. The spade was used to dig all of the trenches by all of the war dead, and all of it was led by these massive criminals. I'm not so sure about whether or not the Yorkshire Freemasons were then in the leadership team. Bye bye.